You are listening to Blessed and Bossed Up, presented by Anchored Media, an entrepreneurship podcast for Christians all about how to make God the CEO of your business. Get ready to be inspired, challenged, but well equipped to live and build your destiny His way. Hey guys, I want to tell you about this challenge that we have coming up in the society. It's called the Business Meeting with God Challenge. Now, this is the second time that we've had this challenge, and I was blown away when we did it the first time, so we had to bring it back. Now, this challenge is different. This challenge is truly a challenge with rules. So no social media, YouTube, or podcast, including this one, for the entire 7 days. You have to spend time with God near water at one point during the challenge. You have to do a prayer walk daily outside if the weather permits, and you must have a business meeting with God every single day. Now, these are the challenge rules, but within the society, we are here to support you. So every morning you get a devotional with an assignment. We fast from food until noon every day. And you have these community quiet time meetups with all of the hosts. So this is an opportunity for us to explore the Bible on different topics. So I'm going to do my community quiet time on how to surrender your ambition. Rosalind is going to do one on how to seek God on the tools and resources that you need for your business. Kavaya is going to do a group quiet time on how to overcome comparison in business. And then Charla is going to come and talk about how to navigate the Bible for your business. So if you are someone that really just needs practice in making God the CEO, seeking Him on behalf of your business, come and do this challenge. It's free. It's happening within the society over the course of a 1-week free trial. So if you click the link in the show notes or go to blessedandbossedup.com/challenge, you can register there. Again, it's free. The society is a paid community, but the challenges are free. You can leave when the challenge is over at no cost, of course. But I want you to be a part so that you can get used to the lifestyle that it takes to make God the CEO and truly see what He does in your business as a result. So again, go to blessedandbossedup.com/challenge or click the link in the show notes to join us. The challenge is from April 17th to April 24th. I'll see you there. Hey guys, welcome back to another bonus episode of the Blessed and Bossed Up podcast. Quick disclaimer, I am congested and you may be able to hear that in my voice. My allergies, they winning right now. I am taking a major L. I think because I'm pregnant, so my immune system is suppressed, so it's making my allergies a lot worse. But when I tell y'all it's ghetto out here, it's ghetto. So shout out to everybody with allergies. I'm praying for all of us. But nevertheless, last week we answered questions and I told you guys that I wanted to do this bonus episode on another very popular question that I get. The root of the question is how to hear from God. The way that it's asked, it varies from how do I know if this is a me idea versus a God idea? How do I know if these are my thoughts or if this is God? How do I know if I am in alignment or not? All of these things are rooted in knowing and understanding the Father's voice. So the first thing I would ask anyone who asked me this question, because y'all know I'm famous for answering a question with a question first, because I'm just trying to get understanding and the answer depends on where we go next, right? So first, I would have you put a mirror up to yourself and ask, am I putting the cart before the horse? Am I seeking God for His hand and not His heart? Am I seeking God because of what He can do for me, because of the promises that I hear and read about, because I want to live this purpose-filled life, or I want to have this successful business. I want to have this. I want to have that. The root of all of that is I. Am I seeking God for me and what I want? Or am I seeking God for His heart? Am I seeking God for Him to change me, for Him to remold me back to who He intended me to be before life molded me into something else? Am I seeking God on how can I serve Him better? How can I live righteously? How can I be the salt and light of the earth? How can I serve Him? Or are you seeking God for how He can serve you? This is a very pivotal question. I'm not going to judge you based off of your answer. I'm just saying that you should answer it so you know what to do next. Because if the truth is, and God knows the truth regardless, if the truth is I'm seeking God so He can serve me, then that needs to be dealt with. Now, more practically, some things that you should keep in mind is that God will never contradict his word. The Bible says that he and his word are one. So a measuring stick that you can use when you feel like you hear something and you want to know if this is God or not, is it in alignment with the word? Of course, the prerequisite of that is to know the word, but is this in alignment with the word? And when I say that, and when you go to do that, don't just look at the scripture at the surface level. Read the context. Read the who, what, when, why, how. Who was speaking and who were they speaking to? What was the intention of this? Because then you'll find what the text is actually saying versus interpretation, because sometimes we misinterpret text due to a lack of context. So when you're measuring up what you're hearing with the word, make sure you're measuring up with the word in context. Okay. So that's one practical thing. God will never contradict his word. Something else that I've learned over the years is that God speaks to us differently. He has different methods of speaking to his people. And based off of conversations that I've had with other believers, I found that, and people I talk to, usually his way of speaking to them is pretty consistent. And I guess that depends. I don't know why that is. I'm assuming it depends on maybe like the way the person is able to receive. I don't know. But God does speak in a variety of ways. So God will speak in dreams. God will speak. Of course, he always speaks through his word. God may speak in visions. God will speak in nature. God will sometimes, people have even been recorded hearing God speak audibly. God will speak in a still small voice that may pop into your head as a thought. So there's a variety of ways that God speaks. And I always, for years since I started this podcast, recommend the book, How to Hear from God by Joyce Meyer. I suggest getting that book if you want to learn all the different ways that God speaks and what that looks like, because she goes in a lot more detail about each method. Now, again, God always speaks through his word. And something that I used to do when I first got saved and was trying to live for God and just trying to figure out how does God speak to me and deciphering his voice, something that I used to do was I would write down everything I thought was God. Everything. So whether I had a dream, I would write it down. If I heard something, I'm like, maybe that's God because I don't think that's me. I would write it down. If somebody would give me a word and it was, oh, God told me to tell you, I would write it down because people be prophet-lying. So don't be out here thinking that just because somebody say that they a prophet, what they saying is from God. People be lying. Okay. And don't get manipulated. Don't get spiritually manipulated out here by not being vigilant. So that's a whole episode for a whole nother day. But I will write it down and I will go back to the word. And and more practically, what does the Bible say about da 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 da? And I will read it. Go to the text, read the context, measure up what did I hear. If it aligned with the word, then I would say, okay, that was God right there. And then over time, and then something I also used to do was ask God for confirmation, especially early on in my walk, where I wasn't using confirmation as a procrastination tactic, because we got to separate those two. Some of you guys, you hearing God, but you asking for confirmation because you ain't trying to do what he said. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about individuals who are genuinely new and trying to figure this out. So I would ask God, can you confirm this? If this is you, can you confirm it? This podcast is sponsored by eHarmony, the dating app that helps people find someone who gets you. I believe that relationships thrive when you're truly able to take the mask off and be yourself. When I met my husband, it was so important for me not to show up as, this entrepreneur, this person who does all of these things, but just me. Because if all of this went away, would you still love me for who I am? And I'm so grateful that I found that, and not someone who was just obsessed with what I could produce or what we could produce together. Even before that, when I was single, I would use dating apps to try to find a match. And it was such a frustrating process. But eHarmony does a lot to understand what it's like to be single or in a relationship today. In one of their most recent research studies, they found that the most common frustration of people on dating apps is that other people's profiles are generic and they don't tell them enough about who people really are. So what's the answer? 2/3 of daters agree that having a profile that accurately captures who they are and attracts the kind of people they're looking for is a top priority. When it comes to connection, we want someone who truly gets us, not just certain parts of us. If we're going to make better connections, we'll have to give people a better sense of who we are too. eHarmony helps you create a profile that shows the real you. Their well-rounded personality quiz helps you find someone who will really get you. eHarmony is the dating app that helps you show up as yourself, so the connections you make sees you for you. So join the dating app that helps users find the most authentic relationships. Take eHarmony's compatibility quiz today and get someone who gets you. This episode is brought to you by NetSuite. We talk all the time on this podcast about how you should be an effective CEO of your business and make the best long-term business decisions. That's why I'm so excited to talk to you about NetSuite. NetSuite gives you the visibility and control that you need to make better decisions faster. And for the first time in NetSuite's 22 years as the #1 cloud financial system, you can defer payments of a full NetSuite implementation for 6 months. That's no payment and no interest for 6 months. And you can take advantage of this special financing offer today. NetSuite is #1 because they give your business everything that you need in real time, all in one place to reduce manual processes, boost efficiency, build forecasts, and increase productivity across every department. Now, again, in order for you to make the right executive decisions, you need to have all the information. And sometimes it can just be a waste of mental space to have to go through so many different manual processes, different places, and just redundant systems to find the information that you need. So having it all in one place is absolutely necessary for you to make the best decisions. 33,000 companies have already upgraded to NetSuite, giving visibility and control over their financials, inventory, HR, e-commerce, and more. If you've been sizing NetSuite up to make the switch, then you know this deal is unprecedented. No interest, no payments. Take advantage of this special financing offer at netsuite.com/blessed. netsuite.com/blessed to get the visibility and control that you need to weather any storm. netsuite.com/blessed. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. I feel like my best self when I'm in therapy, when I am praying, I'm spending time with God, but I'm also seeking a professional to help me navigate all of the craziness that life can throw at us. You guys have heard me talk over the last year or so about my experiences with therapy, many of the aha moments that I received, and just how my therapist was able to really help me work through some of the things that I don't often share with people because I feel crazy, I feel like I'm by myself, and that's just not healthy. Talking to somebody has been extremely beneficial for me to work through my emotions and again, to be my best self. If you're on the fence or you're considering giving therapy a try, I highly suggest BetterHelp because they're a great option. It's convenient, flexible, affordable, and it's entirely online. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. If you want a more empowered life, therapy can get you there. Visit betterhelp.com/blessed today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/blessed. And whenever I would get confirmation, I would go back to my journal, wherever I wrote it down, and I would write the confirmation that I got and how I got the confirmation. And over time, by just doing that, I started to learn how God speaks to me. Doing that alongside of reading my words so that I can understand what it says, going to church, changing my lifestyle, living a more righteous life. That in addition to all of these things together over time as I matured as a believer, having wise counsel, being able to go to leadership and say, hey, I think God is sharing this with me. I'm not sure. Just being able to utilize all the resources that I have for me personally allowed me to get stronger in my walk with God and my faith. It allowed me to get wiser as I got deeper in the word. And it allowed me to recognize God's voice. Now, something that I realized can hinder you from being able to hear him clearly or can cause confusion is how emotionally attached you may be to the outcome. So I gave you some practical tips on how to decipher if you're hearing from God. Now, here's a big roadblock that will cause you to be very confused no matter what stage of your faith you're in. And again, that's how emotionally attached you are to the response. So if you're in, let's say, for example, if you're in a marriage where it is so emotionally draining, where you every single day is agony, you don't want to be there, you hate it, all you can see, think, or feel is the agony of this relationship. If you're seeking God on behalf of it, it's going to be difficult to be able to hear what he's saying because you're so emotionally attached to it or so emotionally drunk, right? I believe it's one of the reasons the Bible tells us to be sober and to be vigilant, because high emotional instances make us susceptible to the enemy, to his manipulation tactics, and how he tries to distort the word of God. When Jesus was in the wilderness, hungry, he was just fasting, he was weak. The enemy tempted him by manipulating scripture. This is another reason I tell you to make sure that when you line it up with the word, that you go and you find the actual text and the context, because the enemy will love to distort it a little bit, just enough so it sounds enough like it that you will go with it, but it's still deception and it's still wrong. So again, emotions can easily confuse you. So if I was you, in whatever situation you're looking to hear from God in, or you may feel confused about, or in that state where it's like, is this God? Is this not God? I would really check your emotions, because they can cause that confusion. So perfect example, I had an episode. It was Luke 1 and something is the title of the episode, where I talked about my fertility journey this time around, trying to have another child, and how emotionally attached I was to the outcome, because I was praying to God specifically for answers on if I should do IVF or if I should wait to try to conceive naturally and carry to term naturally. And I was so emotionally attached to the subject. And it was to the point where all the ways that I usually hear from God, and the way I can move confidently in knowing that I'm doing what God said, that was not there anymore. And it left me confused of, one day I think I'm hearing from God to do IVF. One day I'm thinking I'm hearing from God to wait and conceive naturally. I had no peace. It was just so much internal turmoil. And so this is another thing. If there's no peace about it, I would say that this probably is not God. Now, caveat here, because I like to be real clear when I speak so nothing is misinterpreted. There's a difference between having peace and being comfortable. Most of the things God is going to call you to do are not going to be comfortable, but there's a difference between peace and comfort. We'll talk about that in another episode, because I don't want you to confuse the two. I just had to say that. But I had no peace about moving forward with either decision. And I was at a crossroad where everything that I did to hear from God was not working, where I was fasting and praying, still not getting a clear answer. Even when I took it to the word, there's so many different examples of women who God has blessed to conceive against what societal norms may be. They may have been an old age or a virgin like Mary. Like, God has done some amazing things as far as childbirth and fertility in the word. So I knew that no matter what way I decided to go forward, that God could move. I just needed to know the specifics of what was the next move for me, what was in alignment with God for me. And in that moment, I didn't have the answer. And so what I did, because again, emotions and your attachment to the response can cloud your ability to hear God clearly, I just walked away from it. And I said, God, I'm not making any decision. And when you want me to know what the right decision is, I need you to make it undoubtedly clear, because nothing that I've done that I know how to do that works for everything else is working right now. And I left it there. Sometimes you just got to leave it. And so I left it there. And then out of nowhere, and I go into detail on that episode, but out of nowhere, God dropped it in my spirit where I knew without a shadow of a doubt, and I can't even explain to you beyond, it was an overwhelming sense of like, this is the decision. And I instantly had peace about it, that I was to not go through it with IVF and that he was going to allow me to conceive naturally. And 2 weeks later, I was pregnant with the child I'm carrying now. So again, emotions can easily cloud your judgment. So if those of you guys who are in that space where you may be seeking God on behalf of your business and money's tight, you're ready to leave your job, you're going into this place every single day and it's frustrating. So God, when you going to let me leave? God, when you going to let me leave? And you're confused because you don't know, should I take a leap of faith? Should I stay? Should I jump? Should I go? Walk away from it and say, God, when you want me to know what I'm supposed to do, you know how to get to me. He don't need our help. You know how to get to me. So walk away from it and then see what God does. So I'm going to end this here because this is getting a little long, but I gave you some practical tools. New believers, if you're early on, study the word because God and his word are one. No matter where you are in your faith journey, when you get what you think is a word from God, fact check it with the Bible, because if it contradicts it, it's not God. If it aligns with it in context, then it is God. And if you're ever in that place where you are so emotionally attached to the outcome, that may be what's causing you from not being able to hear. So walk away from it and pray for God to just make the answer clear when it's time. So I wanted to answer that question a little differently now because I've answered it a lot of times before. If you go to blessedandbossedup.com and search Hear from God, there's so many episodes where we've covered it. And again, my book recommendation is always, of course, the Bible. But in addition to that, How to Hear from God by Joyce Meyer is a great resource on that. So that's it for this week's bonus episode. I love you guys, and I will talk to you on Sunday.
He's kind and he's funny and he's also mustachioed. He solves all your problems by the end of every episode. TV Dad. Everyone loves TV Dad. TV Dad. Unlike your real dad, he never hollers. And he tells you how Progressive can save you lots of dollars.
Listen to your TV Dad. Switch to Progressive and you could save hundreds. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary.
With one of the best savings rates in America, banking with Capital One is the easiest decision in the history of decisions. Even easier than choosing Slash to be in your band.
Next up for lead guitar. You're in.
Cool. Yep, even easier than that. And with no fees or minimums on checking and savings accounts, is it even a decision? That's banking reimagined. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com/bank for details. Capital One NA, member FDIC.